find the words for this. I keep trying to find a way to be strong. But then I want to be realistic. And I am really tired. I'm so angry and conflicted. Sometimes I don't know where to start. I'm in so much pain for years. My birthday's coming up. I had hoped to have my own apartment for my birthday so I could feel free. Then the more I thought about it with the targeted individual stuff, what's the point? Because then I'll be in a place all by myself. It triggered the memories from when I was all by myself, going through being targeted, and I didn't know what was happening to me. A lot of weird things can happen to a young woman. And knowing what I know now about the way the program goes and stuff, I look back on my life and it's really scary, pathetic, sad. I'm angry. Very uncomfortable about what's going to happen to my children. It's difficult to stay positive. Like, I've lost, I'm not feeling very positive at all about the conscious community, the awake community. They have similar behavior to the community that we're already complaining about. They plagiarize, they take what they need and just crap all over everything else. Forget about how they got it, who they took it from, who they don't include. I had no idea that a lot of the community that was speaking on behalf of Ascension and Truthers, and I mean the different names that we have for informing people about what's going on right now, we're part of the families. That they're part of a lot of them are part of fucking organizations. They stick with each other. And you don't belong to them, might as well be part of the Illuminati story. But you're just not one of them. I got locked out of a lot of stuff because I'm not one of them. I didn't even know exactly who the freak they were. I just wasn't one of them. I don't fit the gay agenda, the Christian agenda, the feminism agenda. I'm older in the community. Can't fit me in with the house with the married couples because my marriage is totally screwed up. I didn't get the support that I needed. stuck my hand out there, and the targeted individual agenda really made it a lot more horrible for me. As I'm talking, I really feel like nobody gives a crap anyway. But then I'm not supposed to feel sorry for myself. So forget my real feelings and emotions. I got mocked by, one of my teachers was a lot younger than me. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole. I'll be 50 soon. I'm not happy right now, and I don't want to pretend that I am. I have some things to say about my story that I haven't been saying. I really believe that, as a testament to mind control, the fact that I've been through so much crap and didn't say anything, should be part of the proof that I have been tampered with. Because who the freak would go through so much stuff and then keep it to themselves? First of all, I'm an incest survivor. And both my parents had military background. They've both been in the service. My mom was even a cop. My dad was a clown at one point after he had been in recovery for many years. Dad's attached to some other weird stuff. I'm not sure how the clown fits in exactly, maybe with Masons or Templars, some secret organization. There's a lot of things I haven't been told, which is the reason why it's more difficult for me to tell my story. My mom is an incest survivor. When we were little, we moved from Philadelphia to New Haven. And New Haven got caught up in the 70s with the drugs and alcohol and stuff, my parents. I believe that they were involved with some, probably Moss not Moss, some kind of a Mason organization or something that they're not telling me about, that I never got told about. It's the behavior. Plus, fast forward 45 years later, I saw a picture with my mother with these white gloves on, with these other people and these children at some kind of a camp. And it just felt weird to me. They had these white gloves on outside at a camp. Usually use white gloves when, I don't know, trying to clean the dirt off or something. Or I know the cops with the white gloves from back in the old pictures, but they're wearing regular clothes, so I didn't get it. But something in my mind said it was all wrong. And one of the children didn't look like they were too happy. It struck something in my gut. Like there's a lot of things you don't know. Still. It was one of those children with a big mouth, and I told about the incest that happened to me. And one of the things I remember is being asked, you know, why did I have to open my big mouth? That's what my mother said. And for years, I made excuses for my mother because she's my mother. She was also a single mother at one point, and she left my dad. I was in a children's home, and one of the requirements was to leave my dad, get a job, take care of my brothers and sisters, and me. I have one brother and 2 other sisters. I'm the oldest by 7 years. Behind me is a brother, and then my 2 sisters. When we were little, and this happened, I was asked why I'd open my big mouth. And I remember it was weird because it seemed like I was at the police station, and it took a picture. But it seemed like a movie somehow, the way that it stays in my mind, like a clip of some old black and white flick. The way that when they take the picture, it's kind of animated and it sticks out, sets to the side. How they used to do those little clips in the black and white movies. The girl upstairs from me, when I was a little girl, and this was happening to me, she was a Jehovah's Witness. And sometimes we would play with each other. There was a Ouija board. We didn't know how to close out. I didn't learn about things like that until freaking 40 years later, too. Also had an incident. We lived on, I think this is either Greenwood Street or Ann Street. I think it's Ann Street. I saw an apparition on the wall. We did Mother Mary, Bloody Mary. And you're supposed to say that so many times, and then it's supposed to appear. The combination between the violence, the Ouija board, and the sexual. My dad used to beat my mom. That's the violence. On top of the incest. And then the Ouija board. The death of a child. My mom had a stillbirth back of me, an extra chromosome. The child had an extra chromosome. It wasn't a stillbirth. It was born dead. Because of the extra chromosome. I just think that was my fault. But she let me know that it wasn't. I didn't understand things like that when I was little. There was also the darkness used to come alive in my room, and I would hear or see things. Oh, it scared the mess out of me. Saw the shadow creatures at night. And that was my childhood. My mother also was always angry with me, and I would try to prove myself to her. Fast forward, my mom leaves my dad. I end up staying with some woman who was abusive. She used to beat me. I stayed on their porch, in a bed that had a spring. The bed spring used to cut my leg. She had children. We would fight over the curtains and sing Donna Summer and Diana songs and stuff. Baby love, my baby love. Grab the curtains and stuff, and then we get in trouble for taking out the curtains and messing all the folded linens up. But this lady was vicious. She used to get mad at my mother's late payment, and she used to get mad at me for, I don't know, various things. I wasn't supposed to complain about having to sleep on a closed-in porch. I think we were on the second or third floor in New Haven. After we left Eon Street, a brief stay in this woman's house. My mom worked all the time. I was left with this woman, and this woman was abusive. Fast forward, ended up at some children's home, Curtis home, and married in Connecticut. And my brother and sister, my mother had a brother and a sister in New Haven, and they were in a foster home, and I was in the children's home and Curtis home. I wanted to fit in really bad at Curtis home. There were other children. It's a home for children. There was a little Asian boy who killed himself there. He hung himself, I think with a tie or a sheet. There was different types of, there was a Puerto Rican, there was black. We were all mixed. White girls. Curtis home is closed now. On holidays and stuff, this is Regina's Rabbit Hole. This is Siren Buddha Medicine. This is talk therapy, talking about targeted individual stuff. Some of you have been wondering, I hope some of you have been wondering about who I am, what's going on. Funny thing is, it put it in my mind. It's been in my mind that it's not really that important, that nobody cares, right? But it is important studying the stuff about silent stalking, street performances, quantum D-wave computers, and voice-to-skull technology, voice of God technology, stuff like that. There's a lot of stories about targeted individuals out there. When you begin to tell your story, it feels so uncomfortable. It feels so uncomfortable. You really feel like nobody gives a blip. Then you realize it's just like one drop of water in an ocean. Okay. The truther community. How disappointing to see that covert operations are using the truther community in the worst freaking way. I pretty much was programmed to a certain degree into the people pleaser kind of thing. Like, I had this so much stuff that was messed up that basically all I wanted to do was fix it. You know what I'm saying? Fix myself. Talk about know you're in trouble on Judgment Day. You know what I'm saying? Because of things, the lifestyle that I had. This is very early. So coming from that abused family where my father was abusive, where there was incest, where I already played with Ouija board and had some weird experience in the night with the shadow people, the shadow men. I already, and then, you know, in my teenage years, which I didn't get to yet, I already knew that I was in trouble, you know. I saw my mother and father and saw their state and knew that I wanted to do something different. So, talking about being a targeted individual isn't easy. Um, Learning the stuff about mind control and how they pick people to mind control, having, they call it schizophrenic traits. But I remember it was before just strictly multiple personality disorder. And that movie Sybil, you know, um, that was like the disclosure. And then over the years, the psychiatric community, professional community, uh, according to the culture, the diagnoses change. Just like gay being a lesbian or being um, a homosexual was declared a mental illness at one time, and then they changed it. And the manual that determines mental illness diagnosis, they changed it. And they keep changing it depending on how our culture changes. You know, they put in new diagnoses and they change diagnoses. So something that was insane 5 years ago is perfectly sane right now, as long as they sit together and proclaim it. So that, to me, now that I know, is also a part of changing the consciousness awareness of the environment of our world. And changing the way we look at things. Like when I was a child, children were seen and not heard. And you just took whatever happened to you, just happened to you. And, you know, when you went to school and the government told you that all of a sudden a new rule came up that wasn't supposed to happen to you anymore, it shouldn't happen because it benefited them somehow. Then you spoke on it, and you weren't aware of the complexities of the decisions that you made as a child. That the places where they put children that are broken will only make them more broken most of the time. Not all the time. In my case, it might have been better for me to stay put in the home that I was in rather than return home with my mother, because hurt people, and she's been very broken. And that's why it was very easy probably to utilize her within the system, as my mom was a cop. I'm not saying all cops are broken, but if you can go and arrest someone else for the stuff that you know you're doing, I believe that that's a sign of broken. So the parallels, again, from being proud of a woman for overcoming abuse, poverty, and incest herself. So you have a woman that had incest in her own family, grows up, marries my dad, so she goes through more. She goes through domestic violence and to a certain degree, poverty again. struggling. And then she becomes a cop. Oh, first she went into the service. Yeah. And then she became a cop. So I grew up in Meriden, Connecticut. And I was the girl who had the cop for a mom. And I also had, having grown up at times without my mom, abandonment issues, having already had a bout with incest from my dad, and my mom being angry with me because of that, you know, we don't clean the cobwebs out of our heads. So I saw a woman being offered her child back into her home, but she hadn't been able to quite work through the fact that my father was a pedophile. Matter of fact, when my father committed the act, I was to forgive him, and we went to family therapy. Even though I didn't want to. I had no choice. I was not ready to forgive. And I couldn't understand what happened and why. I just knew that it shouldn't have. And it all felt wrong from that very freaking moment. So I said, you know, my birthday's coming up and I'm most unhappy. And the voice to skull technology has been on overdrive. I'm getting a lot of suicidal messages and thoughts, feelings of defeat, anguish, agony, frustration, the parallels, the conscious community, the awake community. It's a lot like the church. Say one thing and do another. All love, agape love. I grew up in church. My mom going to church, agape love. And then come home and beat the shit out of you because you said something and you rolled your, because you said something the wrong way. Perhaps your body language wasn't right. Or you rolled your eyes, the need for control because of her loss of control. It's crazy. The other parallels is that somewhere along the line, for instance, I learned a lot of psychology stuff. I learned it so that I could understand. But you learn it the more that you know, the more you don't know. Because you could learn something in a book, but it don't work when you go to implement it in real life. You could know why something is happening and know what to call it, but not be able to change it. You could know what it is, but not be able to change the dynamics of it. And that's what I was looking at when it came to psychology. You can know what gang stalking is and be able to tell people, but not be able to change it. You can know what alcoholism is and not be able to change someone else's drinking problem. If you know that people are jealous and envious, they're dealing with the 7 deadly sins, you can change yours, but you can't change theirs. And then if you change the way that you interact with what you can't change, there's nothing written down that says that it won't make you sick anyway. If the world is sick and you're awake, you would start to be aware that you were sick too. And that's what I was trying to clear out. But for that, you need a surrounding cast. Like, no one man wins a war alone. And this is a spiritual war. And so it's weird. The object of the game is to have people in it with you. Have people that know you. But when you come from so much deprivation and isolation and pain, a lot of times the last thing that you want is somebody next to you that you have to worry about. And that's why this COINTEL, soul catcher, mind control, quantum D-waves, computer stuff is so freaking upsetting after everything that people like us have been through in their lives to end up in this place. You know, where the game is keeping you off balance, the Nazi paperclip stuff, to make you feel unsure and insecure and inadequate. Throwing you off of your game and yourself. The whole thing is to getting to know yourself during this new age and coming in. They got programs they've been using for years on psychic programs and remote viewing. Shoot, CIA use body language, you know, or investigators, you know what I'm saying? Different technologies that we use to be able to interpret truth or malice or assets versus corruptions, tell signs. Those machines that they hook you up to make see if you tell the truth or not. Lie detector tests and things like that. The technology is more advanced now, where they can tell by the sound of your voice without hooking you up to anything. You know, read your body rhythms and stuff through the wall, with technology that reads the echoes. You know, pull the frequencies and the sounds, be able to pull the pictures out of the walls with ultrasound or echoes, with infrared, and measure the sounds coming from inside of the house, not to mention the nanotech. And then the COINTEL operations where they use our idiosyncrasies against us. So there's people who are supposed to be truthers and freedom movement and all this, and a lot of them are it seems like they're chipped, or they're paid off or chipped. So you're in this community where you're supposed to be doing your highest elevation, your most good, putting on your best self, living your best life for your higher self, for the higher purposes. And you end up finding out you're surrounded by people that are very sick, depending on the way you look at it. Sick as in literally, like chipped as in sick as in infested with the quantum D-wave computer program. Sick as in indoctrinated socially or just culturally with programming that allows people to freely just go about hurting others, believing that they have a right to because of their genetics or their education or their economics. eugenics. So confronted with this stuff even then. So I was surprised and hurt to figure out that, I was in this group and I was really enjoying being able to give back, being able to feel good about interacting with people, learning and stuff. And somewhere along the line, I started noticing that my post, we would share information and I would write something and I would post it and it would disappear. And they would say, this is where the gaslighting came in. And I didn't know at the time. This is in 2010, 2012. I didn't know at the time that I was being gang stalked. I didn't know what that was. I just knew I had a really rough and weird life and that I was making a change. And I had found these people who were studying occult, stuff about energy, stuff about outer space, conspiracy theory, chakras, all kinds of stuff. They called it the Invisible College. Matter of fact, I was researching something. Oh, and I was studying stuff with online in the background. Phil Valentine, Tetragrammaton, stuff like that. Dr. Blair, listening to Bobby Hemmett, Dr. Francis Scott Wessling. So I'm listening to was even David Icke. And I got this message, I'm not sure where it came from at the time, but it was like, do you know about the Invisible College? I seen something online that was something about the Invisible College. I ended up going to this place called the Resistance. I know it as the Resistance now. They're talking about was the Invisible College. It's like a ghost site now because they moved on to some other sites. So we're there and all getting along. Everybody's happy. One big family. Multicultural kind of thing. And I'm digging it. Introduced to all this other high-grade knowledge and able to put together some of the pieces that I was trying to learn on my own, listening by myself to those other scholars. Finally, a platform where I could mingle and actually talk to people, so I was really cool with that. And it was big for me, We would have learning platforms where, for hours we would just be on Skype learning and talking about our experiences and stuff. The teacher would come on and we had certain days where they would teach and there were different platforms used. And we seemed like one big, giant, happy family. You could find somebody that you could connect with within this platform, this group. There were different groups like etymology and ciphering, lucid dreaming, ayahuasca, DMT kind of stuff, spiritual police, just different stuff. And man, I was really loving it. So I thought for the first time in my life, through all the pain, I could, because it was about doing the next best thing and becoming the next best person that I could be compared to the way my life used to be. I was more than happy to give of myself and be there, so I did. I would help hold the meetings and stuff, help hold the space in my day, and run the groups and stuff off the internet that I had, and help hold them with another person that was had been there before me. And as time went on, things started happening like, my posts would disappear when I would go to input and contribute. to the information and actually write something down. You know, there was a problem with it. This continued to happen. And I would ask questions like, what happened to my post and what's going on? Is there something I could do better? Who do I talk to? And that's where the gaslighting came in. I would be asked things like, did I put it in the right, did I post it on the right platform? Maybe my topic, I posted my topic in the wrong topic platform, as if I was ignorant. Mind you, I was also going to college at this time. So I was going to college and I was doing my schoolwork, doing my husband's schoolwork, and on this platform. Talk about burning your candle at both ends. And I was loving it because it was about learning so far away from what I had been through and what I had been indoctrinated to. Mind you, I did not know that I was programmed for the entire life that I had just left. I did not freaking know that that wasn't even me. When I went to self-help groups, when I was checked into mental hospitals, when I took their medication, when I had mysterious illnesses and they told me I had post-traumatic brain syndrome, yeah, but that's not, so. This is where it gets really creepy. It went from enjoying myself learning and holding lessons to being told how I should conduct myself as a lady, that I was too outspoken, maybe too animated. See, I used to be called Reg F and Howard, and a lot of people didn't even know that I was a girl until I allowed them to get to know me more and started to participate more. And then when we did the lessons in the groups online, that's when people realized that I was a female. Because for the longest time, I was just in a chat box. And I guess my strong opinions and stuff, they thought I was a male because I would have to correct people and say I'm a girl. So this gender thing kind of followed me around, where if people thought I was a guy, my opinions and stuff seemed more appropriate. I got messed with less. But me being a girl coming into the light, people mess with me more. That's another reason why I have a issue with image and all this kind of stuff. So it got creepier. One of the women there, you know, when we would do the lessons and stuff like that, she was also one that was started telling me how I should conduct myself, like. But I could tell she was holding something back because she would choose her words way too freaking careful. And I remember having a discussion with her and this other woman that we would do things together, and I trusted them, these two women. And I admired them, and I thought, cool. I get to fix that pain inside of me, being estranged from my sisters and my mother. Let's work on that, right? So, but it didn't work out. And I thought it was me, but it wasn't. Somewhere along the line, I started studying about the gang stalking stuff. That kind of stuff always seemed way beyond me, way over my head. That kind of stuff happens to politicians and scientists and stars or something, right? Not your everyday chick, or not even everyday. So I started studying stuff about gang stalking. And that's when I started looking back on my life and finding a pattern. But actually I had left this site too, with all the pain and stuff that I had went through with it. One of the women had started a rumor, then told me she started a rumor. I noticed people were backing up off of me, and I was like, why? She let me know that it might be because of something she said. So at first, she told the guy who on the platform, she told me that she told him that she thought that I touched my daughter inappropriately, that my camera on my computer happened to be left running, and that my daughter was in the bed with me, and I was moving, and from the way that I was moving, she internalized it as I was doing something wrong. First, talk about the conflicting in my mind. First of all, I want to defend it myself with her, because how could you accuse me of doing something so disgusting and raunchy? And in defending myself, in my brain, trying to figure out why would she think something like that, the other part was, how the freak would you even be looking inside my room if the camera wasn't on? And she said that for some reason the camera was left on. This is before I realized that people could play with your, your camera and your equipment and stuff. And the gaslighting, and that people who gang stalk you want you to know that they're gang stalking you, especially if you haven't figured it out yet. When you get to another stage, their job is to let you know that they're there. And also that you can't do anything about it, and that nobody will believe you. So my posts are missing. And she started a rumor, and then told me that she was sorry, and that she corrected it. She realized that she was wrong. So now I'm conflicted. This is the Nazi paperclip thing. I'm conflicted either between being grateful that she told people the truth, that she was wrong, being angry that she came up with some cockamamie bullshit like that in the first place, and that was so fucking detrimental to me and my character. And I was on this site learning and stuff. It was already complicated enough for me to get to know people. And she did this. So yeah, she said, I'm sorry, but the damage was already done. And I laughed it off and dealt with it because, well, we're conscious. She admitted it, right? She's growing. This is the community. Just brush it off and keep it going. And so I did. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to figure out why my posts are disappearing. And while another thing too is that I had wrote a little book, and some people drew some pictures, painted a pictures to go with the book, with the storyline. Internal song. Not internal song. A New Song is the name of the children's book. And so there's even a piece of music written to go with it. I didn't produce the book yet because I didn't know how to stick it into a PDF appropriately edited with the music and the pictures, as it should be in my mind's eye, the way that it was when it was produced in my mind's eye. I didn't have the technology, the know-how to actually get it into the technology formatted that way, and didn't know how to have the funds or know who could help me to do that without those kind of funds, who have the know-how. So the book wasn't created, and then over time I realized that where I wasn't the place for this creation, because I wanted it to be some place where I was accepted and that I trusted. And over time I realized that I couldn't trust this place that I was at, that I was learning, or the people that I was learning with. And it became confusing and very murky. And so the upliftment left. And they went from one platform to another platform. I noticed that we were holding Skype groups and stuff, and we would invite each other to the different groups. People had different projects going on. My project, The same woman who accused me before and I forgave, she wanted to be involved in my project, but I didn't want that, and I wanted that to be my choice because she was holding groups, private groups without me. I wasn't invited to them. I wasn't a part of those things, and I wanted to have my own thing that I was doing. And I noticed that she was controlling, and things of mine that I was posting were disappearing. I didn't know what was going on. I really just needed some space to grow. I was also being compared to the owner of this site a lot, where every time I came up with my own freaking idea or talked about something, one of the women that I was studying with, it was two women mainly, kept saying, "Oh, you sound like this person. You sound like this person." And the reason why I'm not mentioning the site is for the thousands of people that are on it. The information is phenomenal and the resources, but the other stuff that's going on in the background with the sicknesses and stuff, that's a whole nother story. So take what you need and leave the rest. Another conflicting thing is the work that this person has done is phenomenal, but the behavior and the way that I was treated is atrocious. And that's conflicting because I love this person as a brother, which should be a testament to how I think, because I'm estranged and have issues with my own brother. And yeah, I love him, but he's pretty screwed up and I don't really want him around me. Although I feel conflicted and would have liked to have developed a relationship. My brother is also a part of the gang stalking program and was in the service. And, pretty sure he's chipped or something because he just doesn't freaking act right. It could be pretty cruel. Along with my male cousin, too. My cousins, they were all freaking, I come from a military family. Or they're ministers. Really weird. And so I'm estranged from all of them. I wanted nothing more than to freaking find people I could get along with. It's been a crazy ride. It's been hard to find that, and now I'm finally at a point with the gang stalking program that I no longer want to reach out. It is excruciatingly painful that I'm not sure who's who anymore. Like, is it the private families sending subliminals and using the same tech as the government program with the Nazi paperclip soldiers? Because it appears that I have different groups utilizing the technology of the street performing, gang stalking, quantum D-wave, computers, and the voice to skull technology and stuff like that. Totally on a whole nother trip, alien technology, alien involvement. I've been missing time. I have memories. As I was going through all this stuff at the site, I was learning. And as I was learning, bumping into these conspiracy things, I ran into the information about gang stalking. And as I learned more, I was like, oh snap, that's me. As I was learning about other things, one of the things that was really bothering me was my birth date. I mean, February 2nd, 1969. I mean, how freaking hard could it be to find out information about Groundhog's Day, right? Or how hard could it be to find out certain information about things that you wanted to know? Even within this occult setting where you could learn about occult information, I still had a difficult time finding out information about women, about February, about the Sibyls and stuff like that. So I was like, well, I got to move on because there's too many things happening. So I did. But at first I thought, I want to be okay, but it appears that I'm still registering a loser. I'm still registering not good enough, no matter how hard I try. So, you know, I wasn't a namaste person per se, but definitely positive and upbeat, forgiving, helpful, contributing, and all that was taken for granted. It was like it wasn't supposed to be. That's why I compared it to the church and the agape love thing, because the kindness was taken for weakness and as a sign of stupidity. My rare personality and my kindness, I was taken for a wackadoo, even amongst people who be considered, they went there because I thought we were all there because we were considered wackadoos in the regular, per se, public eye. We were all becoming awake and aware and needed some place to be loved and love on other people while we learned. So free. Just learning. Safe place to learn. Was a bunch of poppycock. Yep. There was more mind control and gaslighting and rumors thrown around, all that stuff that they talk about in the books, the textbook gang stalking stuff. When I look back, happened there. And I went there so that I could learn with people. And it took me a minute to catch up to the fact that while I was there, all that shit was going on. And it's still going on. Since I was there, the gang stalking escalated. But from studying the mind control Nazi paperclip stuff and that, I realized that my entire life was a path for that. With my military family, my mother having also been an incest survivor, a mysterious kind of woman. She was also the first black officer in Meriden, Connecticut, a service person, and abused by my dad, as I stated before. Textbook opportunities to grow children that would have issues and be prime candidates for MK Ultra. So that was one site. Oh, so I'm online and stuff looking, you know, to be loved or accepted, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And in the years, one of the people that I admired, looking for somebody weird like myself. So I bumped into this other male online, younger than me, but I thought, oh wow, how cool, because they're strange and different like me. And so indirectly, the person was talking to me, sending subliminals and talking to me like messages of things that I was going through in my everyday life. Yeah, so I really wanted to believe that, you know, I was relating to this person because their personality was unique, and, you know, I was looking for people like myself, daring to be different but friendly. And yeah, so I started watching them on YouTube. And, you know, the more I find out about mind control and stuff, the more I see that they too are a part of the whole fucking thing. You know, I thought that they liked me and they were sending me subliminals, but never in person, never texted me not once, or inboxed me to talk to me. Plus, I believe that person has other personas and stuff online. I noticed that some of these people that belong to the secret organization, they have like more than one self online, like literally putting on a disguise and um, making fun of the fact that people don't recognize them when they switch up, you know. Um, just playing tricks with your head. Um, you know, person is younger than me, you know, and I've been isolated, and I can hear them talking to me in my head through the voice to skull technology. And then when I get comfortable with it, like say, if they say, well, you know, go outside and, you know what I'm saying, or go here or there, that person won't be there and it won't happen. But yet, it's the Nazi paperclip stuff causing doubt in your own interpretations of what's real and what's not. Like, what do you trust and what don't you trust with all this new weird stuff that we're into? I could do something very exclusive to just me. And then what I did pertaining to that thing every day, find, or pretty much every day, find the relevance or correspondence with what's going on in my life and those messages that I want to block out of my mind. Like, who wants somebody talking to them when you're lonely and you're going through life so horrible? Of course, I want somebody to actually talk to, not just somebody in my head. And then you go and you see that that's the person who you are enjoying listening to online. And you don't need any BS. You don't need any garbage going on in your life. So you don't need any nonsense going on. You would much rather talk to them, right? Some kind of freaky stuff going on? Talk to me. Especially when you know that I've already had the freaking problems with being institutionalized because I'm supposed to be depending on my gifts, internalizing myself, solidifying myself, feeling confident with myself and the gifts that our Creator gave me. With like being clairvoyant, being empathic. And how do you do that when people keep messing with your radar? Every time you trust somebody, they're right there to fuck it up. Excuse my language. Right there to say, well, you shouldn't have trusted me. And then using the universal laws like as through correspondence. If you got or something happened to you, then you know, you had it coming. Like, you called it to you. It's something that you need to do to change you. But never in that statement is the people who are doing it identified and like, you know what? Y'all need to clean up. It was supposed to be a safe area to learn and grow. You shouldn't have been doing what you were doing to cause that collision in the first place. How dare you blame it on the person that was open to growing and being vulnerable? That's crazy. And that's what I think the conscious community is really crazy right now. Like, got people coming and they're all fluffy and stuff, just like they do with the church, talking about agape love. And, you know, we're Christians and all, we love you, everything's going to be all right, acceptance. You get up in there and you want to make a name for yourself and do something to actually change things. And egos come into play and people mess with you and do things. They blackball you. They start smear campaigns so other members won't trust you. They smile in your face, throw your radar off, so you don't want to make yourself seem difficult, like you don't play nice with other people. So you're sucking up this stuff knowing that this person is not your friend. You're feeling this with your empathic abilities, which you're supposed to be growing into and learning to trust. But you're not allowed to pay attention to them. You're not allowed to trust yourself. Because the person who is gaslighting you, who is treating you badly, is a part of the community. Anyway, that really, really hurt. And I still watch this person. You know, a few times they were supposed to come through and never came through. The street performers said, they don't want you. They're not coming. And I was just so hurt because they purposely are corresponding the voice to skull technology with giving me messages with their podcast that they do every day. But no show, no other correspondence. And in the podcast, it's the Nazi paperclip stuff. There's nothing to tie them to me personally, because they never contacted me personally. Only through the subliminals, through the voice to skull technology, and through their podcast. And I know that they have the same affiliations that I'm talking about, the group that I was talking to you about. And that woman who started a rumor and then apologized, she was starting another website that I didn't want to become a part of. And it was like it was like I was trying to, like they were trying to herd me there, like I was some kind of a slave or sheep or whatever, like the activity. Oh, well, it's uncomfortable here, you don't really like it, herd you over there to this other website that she was starting, you know. And you know, she was always, can you help me with this, can you help me with that, like she wanted to be a handler. She wanted to utilize my talents and abilities, but not as a grown-ass woman. She was treating me like I was 5 years old, telling me how I should conduct myself as a woman. Meanwhile, I could read her personality, that her moral, something inside her, the meter that I have inside of me. I'm just making a tape for myself.
Huh?
Just making a tape for myself.
What are you doing?
My life story.
You talking to yourself?
Yeah.
You got it on now?
Yeah.
So how long you want to drive for?
I don't know. Yeah, so the same woman that lied on me, that walked around, well, not walked around because I wasn't walking anywhere, it was all online, that presented like she was morally correct, would let me know that she was a swinger, you know. Not that that's morally incorrect, but I'm just saying, though, some of the stuff that, I mean, you're worried about I don't, you're worried about how I speak to the intensity in which I speak to other people is, or me presenting myself more ladylike, but yet, I don't know, it's okay to be a swinger. Yeah. The measurement was off to me. And she had a lot of sway with the other women. So that wasn't helpful to me because, yeah, my overly opinionated self, some would say, and that I don't typically just stick with the opinion of the majority just because it's the majority. I mean, if I feel like it's correct, cool. But if not, no. You know, some people would say, well, come on, if everybody else is just, it's not a big thing. If everybody else is in agreement with it, just do it. I'm one of those people who have a hard time with that. They would say I was making a big deal out of nothing. The same woman was the only woman from the site that my husband said that he liked, and that's a love bite situation. What else happened? Yeah, I would talk to her about my post disappearing. The other woman, that was what, that we would be together. We would be talking together. She would always offer to save things that I was working on, like for projects and stuff. Like, I'll save it for you. She would volunteer. And then a couple of years later, some of the stuff, because I said that the site, it's still there, but we don't really use it. But some of the stuff that I was sharing with her personally and that she knew about, she had moved on to other sites. She was actually selling information to other people who were so-called Black conscious. I started to see myself duplicated online. For instance, I do the nature thing with the trees and stuff, and as a Black woman, you didn't see that. A lot of women were not doing that. I saw another woman that I would show my support to other women and other people, and I would push the like button, and how that is so unusual. I'm like, how are these people talking about consciousness and awareness, and part of that was the spiritual warfare, but yet they weren't very spiritual in the direction I thought was going to be beneficial. I'm like, how does that work when you're selfish and you're cliquish and non-supportive? But yet every time I look up, a little piece of me is copied. You start out one day where you meet a friend and you're talking to somebody and you're like, hey, cool, I get to meet somebody new, get to know somebody new, and every day you see them, they look a little bit more like you, acting a little bit more like you. All of a sudden they have your hobbies and they're looking like you, showing pictures with poses and stuff that you do, like mannerisms and stuff, like body language or whatever that you've done or you just did, duplicating your conversation. but never giving you any other support or recognition. Won't mention my name. I mentioned all kinds of scholars, gave all kinds of thank yous, pushed all kinds of like buttons and shared over the years to the point where I just got so utterly freaking frustrated and disappointed. All that stuff was considered me being silly and stupid, that I didn't know what was up with the game. This is an illusion too, they said. What, you stupid? You don't know? It's about eating. These fools don't believe half of the stuff that they're selling and pushing out. You stupid. I was like, shoot, I should have stayed in the church. The way you talking and the way y'all behaving. I knew what was going to happen there. And suddenly I realized this dream that I had where I was in this cube where every level and every room was the same, and I was at the elevator and I didn't want to go on it because I knew it was going to be the SSDD. Same shit, different day. Only on another level. Another parallel. It's not higher if only the tools change and you're doing the same crap. So where does the elevation come in if you're jealous and afraid that somebody is going to get more attention than you or learn something that you don't know? Where your teachers like to gossip and character assassinate, or they're involved with other secret private organizations and league with gang stalkers. So you realize that people that you studied with, that you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed thinking that, you know, because you're on the conspiracy theories and roots and herbs and stuff like that, you're going to make a better world. You're talking about children and things like that. You even apologize for some stuff. You're going to make a better world, right? And you realize that it's all a lie. It's about money and prestige and, you know, you're just not their type. So they'll take your ideas, but not you. Over and over and over and over and over again for years. Putting you, benching you, benching you, benching you. You're never good enough. Within this conscious community, then you realize it's just another part of the gang stalking stuff. They're just another format. They're playing along with it. There's no place to go. The same people telling you there's no place to go and nobody cares are the ones messing with you, doing stuff to you. And they got a whole freaking group, a whole giant backing. They got the money and they have the group of people and the organizing. And you look at them and they have, what I've learned, crowds of people following them, admiring them, thinking that they're all clean, just like those freaking preachers and stuff. And meanwhile, they're killing people with freaking electronic weaponry. and gaslighting, because you could really hurt somebody like that, especially somebody who's been through the life that I've been through. I wasn't supposed to make it past my childhood. I got lots of stories. To make it past all that and to have hope to become a better person, studying and researching, looking for betterment, and to reach that point where you end up online thinking that, okay, well, these people say that they want the same thing and they're outside of the establishment and all that kind of stuff. It was just a lie. It's just another form of control. For me, that's what I found. I'm still looking, but I'm not as hopeful. And I felt so discouraged. My birthday coming up. It's nothing worse than looking at your children and just thinking, oh my gosh, I hope that they don't go through a life that I have had. Because I just want it done. I've been so much fucking pain. Not having anyone to trust or confide in. 20-year bad, horrible freaking marriage. 20 freaking years. Horrible. Estranged from my family. Most of them military and acting weird and stuff. There's still mysteries there. So if you know about the paperclip program and the mind control program, one of the components is abuse and the military background. You'd be surprised how many people in my family were in the military and how none of them want to speak to me. I remember when I was a teenager, they would ask me, are you sure you should really go in the military? Like they were pressing that hard. It's like, I'm not a military kind of person. I forget, one person told me don't do it. One family member. But I can't remember who that was. I think it was my Aunt Cynthia, maybe. And now I know how they use the military people. Oh, maybe I pissed them off from the time that I was a little girl. Maybe I pissed them off when they had me in the group homes and stuff and the different institutions and stuff. As I grew older and figured out, I was extra sensitive and I would see spirits. I would hear things and I would be able to see pictures over top of pictures. I'd be, oh, how rare. That's a rare hallucination. I was like, what the heck is a rare hallucination? But I wish I had known then what I know now about the different ways that the gifts that our ancestors give you for seeing and feeling and information and stuff that they give us. So all these gifts and stuff are coming into play. And at the same time, I'm being hit with electronic weapons. I'm being attacked. So that I feel so alone and angry, frustrated. The landlord has cameras inside the house and on the house, and there's nothing I can do about it. The woman across the street has electronic weapons and stuff on me, and the freaking coughing that she does. Every day I have to go through, the stuff with her and the next door neighbors and the house in back of me. And I know that it sounds crazy as I don't know what. But you got to do your research. And then, it's funny because it's like it reminds me what they did with Mandela when he was in the prison where he was totally surrounded. There are cult systems and stuff. Because when you're called and you're appointed, the angels and our ancestors, they come to help you accomplish what it is that you came to do. They'll come and help you like you have extra something going on. So that, we're still trying to figure out how this thing works. And they've got such a large head start. And already knowing what they're dealing with while we're still trying to figure out what our hand means, let alone what the freak they're doing. Just because we have a hand, I didn't even get a chance to look at your hand. You just know they're after it. You don't know how to play it, but it must be something good. But they're going to keep you from trying to play it out and understanding it. Meanwhile, through induction, they'll take your whole freaking hand and use all your energies and your powers to their benefit while you're confused and trying to figure things out. And while they eat your stuff, you're looking around for it and say, "Did you see my stuff? Who ate my stuff?" They'll say it wasn't me. With a big milk mustache. Big mustache from whatever it is they drink. Crumbs all over their mouth from eating your food. And say they didn't do nothing. You're crazy. You're a nuisance. Look at the universal law. Look at correspondence. Get your stuff together. But they will not address the extra things that they put, the wrench that they put in the way. With the mind control, the gaslighting, the misleading you, stopping you from accomplishing things. Withholding information and support. Smear campaigns, and they have the organized abilities to do it because you've been isolated and you're alone and you're the person who's a little off to begin with, and that's why you think the way that you do differently than everybody else. It's nothing worse than seeing your ideas, seeing your mentor wearing your ideas when they had enough of their freaking own. They had a freaking arsenal of things that they could be doing. And thousands of people that follow after them. All you wanted was a place of respect, to be honored by what they said that they were initiating. They said they were opening up a space so that you could be the free thinker and bring what you had to the table. But then when you did, nah, you're secretly a part of a whole nother situation. Oh, gosh. I really don't know what else to say right now. Does anybody know what it feels like to be feeling so hopeless, like so sad and angry and miserable? All I can say is I know that it's left up to our Creator to vindicate me. I mean, that's all that I can look forward to, is to be vindicated. My daughter is in a hospital, still plagued, bombarded by the same technology that I fight, at a different stage of the program. And meanwhile, we still have, just like the Soul Catcher book, second edition, and people like Anthony Patch and all the other people, other targeted individuals who tell their stories repetitive, and we know the technology exists, and they do the same techniques over and over again to the point where it's textbook, right? But yet it's still going on, and people are still looking at people like me when I say this is going on, like, it's like when that look they gave me when I was a child and I said he touched me in the wrong place. You lie. You gotta be kidding me. No. Hell yeah. F is a pedophile. No, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah. Truth. But it's your dad. No shit. He's still a pedophile. They're lying and cheating and stealing. No, but it's the church. Yeah, but they still lying and cheating and stealing. Go figure. I don't know. We used to think that your teacher didn't have sex or didn't go to the bathroom until she came to school pregnant and had to tinkle in the middle of class because she couldn't hold her water anymore. You know. To think they weren't human until you saw them in the grocery store. Like when I saw my teacher in the grocery store when I was a little girl. When one of those men were trying to abuse me in the park. And I convinced them to go to the grocery store and we could do it later. Maybe we could do it later. Could we just go to the grocery store right now? Because I said to him, I'm uncomfortable. People could see us by this tree. Somebody might see us. You don't want to touch me now or do anything now. Take me to the store, and then on the way back, it'll be a little darker. It'll be more toward evening. We'll be less likely to be seen. Then maybe I will feel more comfortable, Mr. that my mom made me go to the grocery store with, even though I did not want to. And all that guy wanted to do was touch me. And when we went to the grocery store, so I said, spirits beyond you, trying to they messing their stuff up. So they bog you down. Went to the grocery store and bumped right into the woman, one of the counselors from Curtis' home. And she immediately took me. And I was grateful. She took me back to the home. And when it was time for them to ask me, do you want to stay with us or do you want to go with her, my mother? I felt obligated to go with my mom because that was my blood. Even though she had asked me to lie and say that the abuse that happened to me by not only my dad, but two different men that were in that rooming house that they lived in. One that I just explained to you. Another one, I woke up and the guy was having oral sex with me. And I was afraid to move. But then when I did, he said, I know you're awake, and my freaking heart stopped. I was just a freaking child. I was not responsible for these nasty freaking grown men. But I was made to feel like it was my responsibility, and I was. And what was even stranger is that I was analyzing the crap as if I was an adult and didn't know it. I never knew what I was. They always tried to suppress it and make me feel like I was wrong for questioning and not wanting to be somebody's toilet bowl. My mom dressed me up as a French dance hall girl for Halloween. There's a pattern here of the people around me. You talk about corresponding frequencies and stuff, and you look at these families and their rituals or the gaslighting, how they throw you away. I'm a firstborn. I feel like I was purposely set up and thrown away. My dad died on my birthday. There's something that people are not saying. They don't even talk to me, my family. I've been in this program since I was a child and I didn't know it. Was it when I told on my dad? On that newspaper, it seemed like it was a newspaper clip when they took the picture of me telling the truth. Yeah. So babysitters that beat you, people that abuse you, moms that are trying to get themselves together. You go into the home, you come out, you want to love your mom and give her an opportunity for change. That's your flesh and blood. I was always forgiving with my mom to a certain degree. It took me years to distance myself from her. It was so much easier for me to want to blame my dad and see his fault because he was a male, and his infringement. This was a program in your mind, you know what I'm saying? My mother's, I wanted to hold on, like in spirit, her being, a female and everything. I guess somewhere in my mind, I wanted to vindicate her stuff so much. And because it wasn't the same infraction as my father's. Physical abuse and verbal abuse. She would call me whores and bitches when she got angry when I was a teenager, a preteen. By the time I was 13, I was gone. I was in a home. And I got kicked out of the home for fighting some other woman, some other young girl was in the home, and she threw her finger brace at me and it hit me in the head. And I got mad. And when I went to yell, defend myself on that, the home kicked me out. And that was one of my first, that was one of, well, it wasn't my first, that was my second encounter with what racism was, or be indifference. It was clear. I couldn't understand why I had to leave and got kicked out for trying to defend myself when the other girl in the home was trying to hit me in the head with her finger brace, a brace that was on her finger, that metal brace. So I saw unfair treatment, and even when I tried to explain it, they didn't care. And on top of everything else that I was dealing with, I was just, that was major for me. I was having night terrors already. I was still a child. So I was about 13, 14. I ended up with a 21-year-old man. I didn't want to go home to my mother because I didn't want her beating on me anymore. And I didn't want to be the chief cook, babysitter, and bottle washer, as she would call it, in a jokingly way. A child's responsibility and duty, right? I wouldn't have minded if I was being treated with respect and I wasn't being called a whole bunch of bitches, or, you didn't want to allow men to use me as a freaking dish rag. That would have been cool. What daughter wouldn't want to be useful to her mother? I have a hard time making my daughters do anything because of what I went through. I made that a choice not to push them. Sometimes we get so far away from what we went through, the person we used to be. So I know that when I confronted people who were talking about new age and wanting to do things that were helpful, useful, new, truth, and all that stuff, oh man, and all that jazz, and all that jazz, and all that jazz, I was down. Give me anything to vindicate myself and my past and the hurt and fix this. And the more I got in and looked up information, the more I saw that there wasn't a way out. I was actually digging myself more in by looking up the information and then talking about it. Do you not say anything? All these years I didn't say anything. Or do you say something? Smear campaigns. People wonder why I didn't leave my husband. They would say, well, you could just leave. That was one of the messages I got from the guy on YouTube. You could just leave if you don't like your environment. How can you just leave if you're being gang stalked everywhere and there's voice to skull technology? Last time I left, my daughters were little, and it took me a year to get back in the house. They took my daughters from me while I was in the shelter, and I lost them. And then they gave them back to their dad, and then I had to work for a year to get back into my children's lives. I've been here. I never tried to take them from him again. Plus, I lost my custody. They said I was dangerous, and that was a lie. They have this program where they use the men, love bites, and the police first response program. They have a domestic program where they police the women with the men who have already been paroled or are in some kind of Mason program. He was checking into the Hebrew Israelites and some other stuff. Addicted to power and control. At least in this house. So every time I get online, I would have a problem with him calling me on the phone or calling me, interrupting what I was doing or upsetting me. When I was younger, it was 20 years. When I was younger with him, as long as I was messed up, he was fine. As long as I was confused and messed up on the psychiatric medications that they gave me. And he had the control and the right to make other decisions for me because the medicines make you kind of comatose. You walk around feeling like everything that you're seeing and going through is your fault. That you don't have any moral foundation because they've pumped so much voice to skull technology programming into your skull. You think that that personality you're wearing is yours, and it's not. So I met him. I married him. And eventually I wanted to grow. I was always doing some self-help groups. Took care of his children. I had 2 of my own children. Took care of his 2 children. He was a big weed dealer when we first met over 20 years ago. He got arrested. I asked him not to do that anymore. We had just had a baby. My first daughter with him. So I asked him not to do that anymore. So he started working a job. While he was in there, he told me that the doctor or police brought him a file. They took away my daughter when he was in there. I had trusted this woman that he had, because I don't drive. He had this woman we call ISIS drive me around so that I could get back and forth to the doctors with my daughter, or where I needed to go to grocery store. And because he was such a big weed dealer, we had a couple of cars. And this woman was part of his stash house for the pot. And he had her chauffeur me around when he got arrested. But really, she was spying on me. And she had my daughter taken away. So, yeah, when he came back from the jail, got our daughter back, and I got pregnant again, I asked him not to partake in selling drugs anymore, and that I wanted to be a family. If we were going to do this now that I had this other child. So that's what we did. And from that point, when I didn't have all that money and stuff, that's when my family disappeared. My mother, my brother, and my sisters, because they used to come around when I had a lot of money for food and party and stuff like that. I always fit in the bill. But once I couldn't fit the bill, they disappeared. After he got arrested, they disappeared. After it became a struggle and we didn't have all the extras, they disappeared. So now I had 2 little girls. His children were back with their mother, but he was with me. Years go by. We moved from New Haven to Meriden. No, we moved from New Haven to Waterbury. I think we were in Meriden for a little while. I don't know. Anyway, so we're in Waterbury now. Been in this house for like almost 10 years. And I used to wonder why I forgot. He would argue with me and say the meanest things, and the more I would fix myself, the more he'd argue with me. It was okay when I was messed up and on pain medication. At one time, I couldn't figure out why. All this stuff fits in with the stuff that they do to you with the technology, you know, where you get sick or, you know, you don't know what happened to you. It's the voice to skull technology and the electronic weaponry. I had post-traumatic brain syndrome, or I had partial face paralysis. I had arthritis, osteo. I had traumatic brain injury. that's when you're having problems, but they don't know exactly what to tell you it is. So they just, it has something to do with the receptors in your brain receiving. So they just say post-traumatic brain injury. So I had all these mysterious things. I was walking with a cane. I had a morphine pump put in my body and then removed. And this was in between this was after I had my daughters. Learning what I know now about different stages of life, like women who have had trauma, sometimes their body goes through shock after they have children. So I wasn't aware of that for my cultural dynamic, to be able to receive help for that. Also, for me being empathic and a spiritual being, I was pushed into the community and mental health facility when actually, I'm gifted and empathic and stuff like that. But the secret organizations, they knew my birth date and knew who I was, purposely derailed me with the French dance hall girl crap and the abusive mom stuff. But that all fits in with the MK programming, the mind control programming, not the paperclip stuff where, you need this psychotic, demented aspect of it to help with the, to be the controller. For instance, my mom introduced me to my first boyfriend. His name was Keith. He was Jamaican. His first year in college, I'm freshman and no, senior in junior high school. My senior in junior high school, this guy is a freshman in college, 21. I really didn't want to be with him. I felt really pushed into it. And he always wanted to put his hands on me. She sees now if this isn't cognitive dissonance, she sees condoms in my drawer, she finds them. Calls me a whole bunch of names and stuff. What do you think was going to happen with a college student? And all the things that I've already been through. So playing games and gaslighting and, stuff like that. Meanwhile, this is another really weird thing too. Stories about my mom that she likes group sex. And another thing too is that when I was little, I used to think that my grandma was so innocent because she was very strict and she was in the church all the time. But it turns out that her children had like 4 different fathers. My uncles didn't have the same uncle, and I never knew this stuff when I was little. My mind and the perception that I had was totally different than what was actually happening. I went by the strength of the individual, their presence that they had in front of me, and what they said, took it at merit, denied my own inner voice and interpretation of what was happening, and adopted theirs by way of fear or confusion or indoctrination, whether it was religious, cultural, parental voices. And society said that psychology had the answer to what I was going through, so I went there. And I did not know that I was a part of the program to purposely suppress the creative minds and the contributing voices of our society. We are in a spiritual war. This is spiritual warfare. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole, and this is Siren Buddha Medicine. My birthday is in 2 days. I was really hoping that I would be able to afford my own apartment, or at least know a clear path to where I would be to be safer amongst people, amongst friends. But I've become so isolated and sad and uncomfortable with figuring out who's telling the truth and who's real and who's not. And then you have the cognitive dissonance and the correspondence things, knowing about universal law. And I kept thinking, like, if I kept running into these horrible people, these people that are faking, these gaslighters and stuff, whenever I reach out to try to work on creating balance or economy for myself, here they come. I've become short-tempered. Say, well, why aren't you working? Why aren't you working? First of all, they're making a post-traumatic stress disorder that I already had, that I was trying not to, working on not claiming or overcoming. I do different methods to overcome that, different meditation techniques and things that I do to overcome that, to become, center myself in my spirituality. Crafts that I do to bring things to me that I need to balance out my personality and what I've been going through. And even with all that I do, they still had to throw in love bites and gang stalking. No place of my own. No friends nearby. Frustrating family story. Children grown now, 17, 18, and 30. I'm looking at 50. And I'm so horrified and sad. To look back and know that my mother knows what's going on and contributed to my pain, along with other family members. That when I worked on trying to better myself for community and society, that people call themselves, even certain teachers and mentors, people that I looked up to, which means other people looked up to them, and people younger than me, the youth looking up to them, that they're liars and they're a part of a secret organization that's killing people. I may sound all fine and well right now, but I actually just want somebody to give me the bottle of pills that I could take to remove myself. Oh, but that's vampire talk. As mock people that are in so much freaking pain, that you contribute to their pain, you mocking them. What's wrong?